Heidy Contreras, and I'm at Cal State San Bernardino. I'm an assistant professor in the biology department. I really wanted to create a program where my students, who are mostly first-year biology students, would get engaged with science in a unique way, in a way that they could connect to it. I thought that the best way for them to connect with the topics that we were covering in our biology courses during first year was to work on a project that was important to the community that they belong to. I went out into the community and kind of thought about what would be important to community members, and water quality was one of the things that stemmed out of those conversations. The project that we put together was trying to get students engaged in doing some community-based research projects focused on water quality, but in the process learning a little bit about biology, a little bit about chemistry, and then throughout the grant also having some peer-to-peer mentoring going on, along with mentoring from faculty and community members. So it was meant to help students engage with the science that they were learning through those first year classes, but then hopefully help them move through the 4 years that they were at our institution by being engaged in these projects that would, entice them to continue in the sciences. I was working at my first institution, the first job I got as a tenure track professor. And, in the process of developing as a scientist, you get a lot of professional development. So by the time I showed up there, I knew how I needed to behave or what questions I needed to ask as a scientist. So I was a good scientist. I had students in the lab, I had students publishing with me. I got tenure, so obviously I was doing a good job. But after tenure, I really started to think about the way I was showing up to these spaces and whether I was really bringing myself into my work or I was just asking the questions I needed to because that's what I've been trained to think about. And I realized that I really had lost my own creativity and my passion for the work that I was doing in lab with my students. And I thought that was a problem. So that's what got me to start thinking about, well, how do I want to engage my students? Like, how do I bring myself into it again? And this community-based research was really a way that I found that I could possibly bring myself back into my work and be passionate about it. The other thing was I really wanted to get back to my community. I was born in Guatemala. I came here when I was 7, and my lifelong dream was to be able to go back and do something with them. And so they were the ones that told me that water quality was something that would be valuable. It was driven a lot through I wanted to be more excited about my work, but I knew that if I was more excited about my work, then my students would also be excited to work with me. And like I said, I was at a Hispanic-Serving institution, but I didn't think that we were doing a good job serving our students. So I really wanted to revamp the way we asked questions, the way we trained students in our research labs, but also the way we trained students through our classes. And first year classes, I thought, were a really good place to make the change. Being part of the cohort, the Semillas cohort, it changed the questions I wanted to ask as a scientist, but it also empowered me to address those questions in my own way. It gave me permission. And I didn't need it, is what I'm realizing, but it gave me permission to go into this space more close to home, I guess, more as myself. And that has changed the way I teach because I'm trying to make that space available for my students as well from the very beginning. So it might be easier for them to address questions that they're interested in their own unique way. And it even changed my research program. So I'm trained as a comparative physiologist. I work with insects and metabolism. But now I have this whole other program that works on water quality. And so I feel like it gave me a new energy I feel like a student, like a graduate student again. Because of all of that, because of the transformation, I was able to get the job that I'm currently at. When I talk to my students about their own process, figuring out their pathway, I talk about all the hurdles that I went through. And I think that is helpful for my students because they could see not only, right, that physically I might look like them or their tias. So they connect with me from that perspective. I'm Latina, but most of the Latinos that I was going to school with were Mexican. So there was also this difference in culture and how close we could talk about the experiences we were having. There were differences. I feel awesome at the place that I'm at because I represent minority within the minority, which is now increasing. And so I'm glad that I'm at the place that I'm at because I could provide them with shared experiences as a whole, what it's like to be a Latina in academia. It's hard. Sometimes it's lonely. So at my other institution, it was also an HSI, but I was the only Latina in the department, in the college. A lot of stuff that, would kind of bubble up, microaggressions, you name it. It was the first place that I was really confronted with issues that I'd heard about that other people had gone through. And it was really hard not to have anybody to be able to go and talk to. So it's also another reason why I connected with the hub, was because I knew that they would be able to provide the kind of help that I needed. Now, as a faculty member, it's something I'm more conscious about, because I went through that struggle in my previous job. So I tried to be supportive of my own students so that they feel like they have at least one person that they could come and say, hey, this happened. Am I thinking about it wrong? Because that's sometimes all you need, is just somebody that you could say, I just want to touch base. Am I crazy? Or does it sound weird to you? I feel like that's what I'm trying to provide for my students as well, is this a safe space to come and have at least one person they feel comfortable with. The conference for me has just helped build the network a bit more. So I did the Semillas cohort in 2020, and so we were all online, and we were super connected that year. But then, after that ended, everybody went to their own homes, I guess, and looked at the camera for a year or so more. So I didn't feel as connected anymore to the hub, and I kind of forgot about the networking itself, not about the project, but that there was this network available for me to continue to come back to and get some help. Coming back to the conference, it just reminded me that there's a resource here. And I know it's going away. I know it's not being funded, but the people are still here. And really, it's all about the people, right? And making those connections. That's why I wanted to come, is just to meet everybody else who had been part of some aspect of the hub. What I've learned here is that there's so much awesome work that is being done by so many different people that are very passionate about what they do. All of us don't need to reinvent the wheel. It's just like talking to each other and seeing, oh, this fits in really well here. And so how do we make it grow in this space? The conference has been really important in bringing people together to create new knowledge and new ways of addressing the questions that we're all interested in. I already have people I'm emailing to share some of the things that I've been developing to help students bring their whole selves to science. I mean, it really did transform all of me. I feel like my career is really different because I was part of just this year-long, I mean, it was a year, but it's just 1 year. And there was so much change that occurred in every aspect, my professional development and just the way I show up at the moment. It really made me feel like I was a scientist, which I was surprised how much I didn't feel like a scientist. And I was so far into my career already, but being part of the process really just made me feel like I had important things to say and that people valued my ideas and they thought they were good, because every time I go and I talk about it, other people get excited and want to work with me. And I was always too scared to do that. So I can't say enough about how awesome this program was, because it completely changed me. So